This week, we are going on the record with candidate for Manhattan's District Attorney Alvin Bragg. If he wins, he will be the first black person to hold that position in Manhattan. So, Mr. Bragg, right here in person, thank you for being here and joining us on Picks on Politics. Good to see you in person.
Good to see you in person. Good to be here.
And congratulations on winning. We have one more hurdle to get through, but everyone's guessing that you are going to make that hurdle, and you would make history here, becoming the first black district attorney for Manhattan. You have a very impressive resume as well, and a backstory that involves run-ins with police when you were a teenager. I want you just to tell some of the audience who may not be familiar with you and your backstory and how that impacted your decision to become an attorney.
Sure. You know, so I grew up in Harlem during the mid-'80s. I'm 47 years old, so during the height of the crack cocaine epidemic. And before I was 21, I had a gun pointed at me 6 times, 3 by NYPD officers during unconstitutional stops, and you didn't need to go to law school to know they were unconstitutional, and also 3 by people who were not police officers. And so at an early age, I was really focused on those issues of criminal justice and fairness and also public safety. And I went to law school to address those issues and have worked on them in the past 20 plus years.
How will that lived experience that you just explained, right, and those run-ins with police, how will that affect how you run the Manhattan District Attorney Office? So
it's affected how I've practiced law. So I've been a federal prosecutor. I was chief deputy in the New York State Attorney General's office. But when I called the police officer as a witness, I would talk to that person and prepare that person, not just as someone who went to law school and did trial advocacy class, but as someone who'd been stopped, asking questions and informed by that work. All of my policies really come out of courtroom work and also out of life experiences. So not just being stopped, but reentry. My brother-in-law was incarcerated and lived with me for a year plus. I've done reentry work as a lawyer. My policies are informed by that, but also informed by those personal experiences.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of your policies, because if you do become the district attorney after a primary against your Republican opponent, by the way, Thomas Kenneth, you said you would immediately do things that would de-prosecute crime like turnstile jumping, resisting arrest for nonviolent crimes, trespassing. Why? Why those specific things?
We need to focus on things that have public safety implications and impacts, the kind of things that Manhattanites are sitting around their kitchen tables talking about, right? Gun trafficking, sexual assaults, things that involve real harm. And this is the most profound power we have as a society, right? To incarcerate, to restrict someone's liberty. And we need to use it on issues where there's true harm and public safety issues.
So let me get to that, because those kitchen table issues, you said during your campaign, I'm going to quote you here if you don't mind, saying non-incarceration is the outcome for every case except those with charges of homicide or the death of a victim, a violent felony in which a deadly weapon causes serious physical injury, or felony sex offense, end quote. So, for example, if someone fires a gun and it misses, and that person's arrested, are they back on the street the next day?
Well, so I think there are 2 issues when we talk about this. One is sort of an issue of bail reform, and there's law on that. We talk about that. And the other, and I believe you're quoting from sort of our policy of what the ultimate disposition would be. And what we were driving at there is that we need to always be thinking about what is the public safety impact. So, firing a gun, and I know this, I've been shot at. I had a friend who was shot at literally earlier this week, so I think I know more than the average Manhattanite what that feels like, and that is a significant public harm incursion. We're going to treat that seriously. But what that language was driving at is that every time we think about a gun does not necessarily mean something that should result in incarceration. I can give you a quick example. My brother-in-law was incarcerated for a gun that he neither saw nor touched. He was in a schoolyard fist fight. They arrested all the boys, one had a gun, and they charged them all with possession. Right. That's a bad case.
So the police commissioner, for example, I've talked to him repeatedly, who has said the bail reform law needs to be looked at because people are put back on the streets, and that's why we're seeing gun cases go up. Do you agree?
I wrote an op-ed on this late summer. I pointed to the data, and in fact, that position, which I walked through in the op-ed, is debunked by the NYPD's own data. And so I'm rooted in the data and my courtroom experiences and my life experiences. And if you look at the data there, folks who were released on bail, I think it was some staggeringly low percentage of the time were then somewhere in the vicinity of a gun incident. So the data just doesn't bear that out.
So then how do you work with the NYPD moving forward, right? Because you're going to have to work closely with them, specifically holding officers accountable, bad apples in the department.
So I've done this. I mean, and for my template for what to do going forward is kind of what I have done. as a federal prosecutor, I prosecuted an FBI agent for lying at the very same time that I was working with the FBI on other public safety cases. I think the hallmarks of that are honesty and transparency. I view it as kind of a family conversation, right? I'm going to tell you the truth all the time. I expect the same from you. We may not always agree, but there's a spirit of cooperation. We all want public safety. We all want fairness. So I'm going to approach it the way I've approached my law enforcement relationships. And very importantly, I always like to focus on the public safety implications, right? So if we don't have accountability, we don't have community trust, and without community trust, victims and witnesses don't come forward, and we don't have public safety.
And briefly, we're almost out of time here, and I have to ask you, because all eyes are going to be on one specific case that's getting a lot of attention, and that is former President Trump. There was that 15-count indictment against the Trump organization. You would be taking over the office, a very interesting time. Briefly, how would you handle that case?
So, as I'm sure you know, I can't say much about the substance of the case, but what I can say is that, I have a history of doing complex white-collar cases, tax fraud cases, public corruption cases, so feel very equipped to handle that matter going forward.
And Eric Adams, Democratic nominee, expected to win in November as well. Some say he's a moderate, you're a progressive. Is there room for you, common ground, to work together?
So, I've talked to Eric. As you know from covering the campaigns, the Manhattan DA candidates were sometimes in the same room as the mayoral candidates. And so we've had an opportunity to talk. I also have listened to what he said. And there's certainly things that we both share. I mean, I listened to his life story and how that informs his work. I listened to his emphasis on race and closing racial disparities, which is a key goal for me in the DA's office. So I look forward to working together.
All right, Alvin Bragg, thank you very much for being one of our guests right here on Picks and Politics. Very good to see you in person.
Great to see you in person, too.